This is Seed&Spark's very first music-focused crowdfunding to build independence workshop. We are unbelievably lucky to be joined by Sean Taylor, otherwise known as Brandman Sean. In fact, I learned that a lot of people in the music business have no idea what your last name is. And they're just like, oh, Brandman Sean, of course. From No Labels Necessary and Contraband Agency. How do you introduce yourself, Sean, to people?
Uh, that's a good question. I said, Sean Taylor. Many people call me Brandman Sean. I'm a marketing strategist, brand strategist, entrepreneur. Leave it
Awesome.
at that. Yep.
Um, okay, well, the screen sharing's paused and oh God.
And while you do that, I don't know if we're gonna have more time to go a little bit more into my background for context, but I can share more on that.
Do it.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of entrepreneur, I guess, I actually started off in tech first, but then I really got into to the music side of things, just helping my friends on the side. They knew I was entrepreneurial. They were all creatives, a variety of types beyond artists. And I was just doing everything on that side for fun, but it ended up being this really successful music festival that I created just for fun and to create a platform for my friends specifically. And that kind of exposed me to many artists and managers, which then kind of dovetailed into me launching this agency and an online presence. Education is kind of just in my blood, like from a family of many teachers and principals and things like that. So I've always been big on giving away as much information I can for free. However, I also have to live. And on the agency side, we have helped many independent artists, many the major labels came calling because of the success we were having with independent artists. Even prior to major labels calling, we helped an artist achieve number one for 7 weeks by the name of 24K Golden in 2020. It was a song called Mood over songs like BTS, Weekend, Blinding Lights, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, WAP, and all those songs. And a lot of people are like, "Who's doing this? Where is this coming from?" Because he was signed, but wasn't getting the attention. He wasn't a priority, right? If y'all know that game, yet. So, and it was us, right? He had been somebody who was educating himself through our channel and reached out to me directly, and we have a direct relationship still to this day because of it. Never really did business through managers. Worked maybe 20 songs with him, all through him, and the success there brought more and more labels. So we work campaigns from people with like Teddy Swims, Coco Jones, legacy acts like Macy Gray, and it's really full stack from the influencer side, um, running ads, have deep knowledge there, brand strategy, content, organic strategy, recording videos for people. And most importantly, my favorite part, direct to fan, so we can monetize that audience and make money. But you got to get to that point that you have a fan base and an audience to monetize, which is where that brand man Sean comes in. So that's a nice little, ribbon and bow, I guess. I didn't mention Forever Fan, a software that I'm a co-founder of, and it helps with that monetization process. We can talk about that more
Yeah.
where relevant.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, especially as sort of like what happens. Well, I don't know. Okay, so here's the cool thing about this webinar is that today I'm also going to be learning along the way. So I invited Sean here to teach, basically co-teach this so that I can even further hone and craft a version of our crowdfunding to build independence workshop, a workshop I have taught, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 times in my life, but primarily to filmmakers, sometimes entrepreneurs. And so while the film and music business are wildly similar in the challenges that they face, music is like a good 10 years ahead of film in terms of the ways in which technology has disrupted the business. And music is interesting because you can make it alone in your room if you really want to. But in order to actually make money off of it, there's a lot that has to be done. And most musicians, at least the ones that I know, are desperate for studio time and stage time and all of those things that do cost money, right? And so part of the purpose of Seed&Spark launching into music is that we started to see musicians from all over the country using our platform, kind of hacking it because it wasn't really built for musicians in the first place. And then we just decided to make it easy for them. And we partnered with Sean and Forever Fan and Mecca Made and Studio 9 and La La Land, among many others, to build out a crowdfunding rally, which I'll talk about in just a second. So I'm going to go back to this deck, if Zoom will allow me. Oh, Zoom, be cool. All right, we'll start the share over again. My screen sharing is paused. But why? I just want Zoom to be cool.
Double click to enter full screen mode.
Share. Oh, Lordy.
Can you just push play on it?
I'm trying.
Here, I'll pull it up on my side too, just in case for
Are
future.
you able to?
Let's see. It says I just sent a request to share. All right. And I'm gonna go here. Cool.
John Taylor, also IT consultant. Zoom, for whatever reason, paused my sharing. It might be because the recording is happening on my side. I don't know. I don't pretend to understand. All right, let's get going. So we'll just go to the second slide there, because now I'm just going to have to tell you to advance slides. I'm so sorry, Sean. One of the core similarities between the film business and the music business is that for an artist, sitting around waiting to be picked is not what independence feels like. Independence comes, and you can go straight to the next slide. Independence comes with a direct connection to your audience. If you own the connection to your audience, you are protected from any ways in which technology might disrupt your industry. You are able to exert a whole lot more creative freedom. You are able to turn down a bad deal, right? There's so much independence that you are given, an agency that you are given when you own the direct relationship to your audience. I'll give you a very quick rundown on Seed&Spark. We are the platform with the highest campaign success rate in the world, and that is because we provide this kind of education and direct human expert feedback on every single campaign that comes through the platform. We don't charge any platform fees. We offer all sorts of creative rewards. You build your campaign through a wish list, which I'll talk about in a second. You get your green light once you hit 80%. That means you have to raise 80% of your budget in order to keep your money. And generally speaking, that's because we want you to build a really trusting relationship with your audience. So if you're going to run a campaign and people are going to contribute to that campaign, we need to be sure you can make what you're asking for if you keep people's money for that campaign. The Independence Partnership is really in the film distribution space, so we'll move on from there. We have all sorts of creator rewards, not just in the film space anymore. So as you gather audiences at 250, 500, 1,000 audience members, you can earn rewards from all sorts of partners across the industry. And I think what's exciting about that is your audiences don't have to fund your project in order to count towards this count. So you can have funders, but you can also have followers. And that means that folks who maybe can't chip in financially, but really want to support you, they can do that on the platform as well. Okay. You build your campaign goal by making an actual budget for what you need, being transparent about your budget, and building it into a wish list. Think of it like a wedding registry for your project. So this might be, studio time, post time, marketing costs, tour bus, I don't know, I think outfitting a tour bus would be a very cool way, cool crowdfunding campaign, honestly. And that wish list allows people to really see what you're going to use the money for. And also, if there are things that you could take in loans, they can loan those to you, and that counts towards your campaign goal. So this isn't just about crowdfunding, it's also about crowdsourcing and the transparency to build a trusting relationship with your audience. Don't worry about the distribution partnerships. We'll get to those later. One of the reasons that we're teaching this workshop is you have a couple more weeks in which you can submit a crowdfunding campaign to participate in the New Music Engine crowdfunding rally. A crowdfunding rally is a large-scale call for crowdfunding campaigns around a theme. In this case, anybody who wants to record live music can crowdfund in this rally. And everybody who crowdfunds basically from it was from May 1st, and your campaigns have to end by October, I don't know, 4th or something like that. I'll send the details after this workshop. You can qualify for studio time. You can qualify for all sorts of services like white glove onboarding from Forever Fan, or studio time in La La Land in Louisville, or Mecca Made in Atlanta, or Studio 9 in North Adams, where they are also providing 4 nights of housing for up to 3 winning teams. Okay, so there is a lot of studio time available here. And then you can use your crowdfunding money for the marketing and promotion of whatever you're going to do next. All right, let's go to the next slide. The number one most important thing about crowdfunding is that you have to build a crowd before you can do the funding. So Sean, I would like to pause here and just say, can you give me like 3 minutes on some like core crowd building techniques that any musician could do from their home without spending any money?
Key crowd building. You said 3 or 4.
Take your minutes. I'll adjust.
Um, so I mean, especially for something like funding campaigns, like Emily said, it is something that starts prior to. So a lot of the things that you're doing unscalably that feel like it's just hand to hand is really going to come to head when it's time to do something big scale like this, because you really want to use relationships. You might get people outside of that, but it's going to be sparked in that initial support and needs to be shown by people who really like you and know you. And then everybody else gets pulled in by that gravity. So that could look like anything like, of course, your family and friends that you know in the real world from regular life, but then other artists and professional counterparts that you've built, right? We've had artists that have gone on tour and opened up and built relationships with artists that they were opening for, and then were able to really like show they were serious when it was time to do a crowdfunding campaign and do things like, hey, can you post and or repost just the day that this thing launches? And you can ask for little things like that, and it's not always money. Sometimes it's just distribution and visibility and a signaling for support. Beyond that, obviously, the audience that you build directly with your fan base online. So posting content and organically, hopefully growing that base. And if you do have your own shows, obviously you would collect fans throughout that process as well. That's where something like Forever Fan comes in, because you'll collect fans, hopefully, if you perform well, just from a spiritual standpoint, right? They opt into you as a brand, but you actually need that line of communication to let them know your crowdfunding campaign, which is where you want to ask them to follow you, or use a Forever Fan to collect their phone numbers and their emails and be able to get out to them at a time that matters, and understand which one of your fans are the best ones to communicate for something like this. So those are like the key ways. Again, I'll do a quick review. You got your real life, just late relationships you developed over time, even like maybe the job that you're working part-time or whatever that is. Then you have your industry peers, or creative peers as you've built your career. Then you have the audience that you've built out directly over time, and whether it's online or just from doing real world activations as an artist as well.
That's right. Okay, so I want to get into how do we build some of those audience members who are not our friends and family. So I don't want you to be, we'll go to the next slide. I don't want you to be intimidated by crowdfunding because it works a lot like a lot of other social platforms. It's a storytelling medium, right? So just like Instagram and TikTok, you're telling stories with video. And I'm using story loosely, right? You're sort of like building up a world through video or photo or text. Crowdfunding is a lot like that. And so what we're going to talk about today are the best practices for building up a really successful use of this storytelling medium to make sure that your audience is like brought on the journey with you towards a finished project. So let's talk about where you start. That's slide 11. Thank you for driving the deck, Sean. You did not sign up for that. This is, I really appreciate you. Three very essential questions. Who the hell is your audience? And when I say your audience now, I'm not talking about your friends and family. I'm talking about the future fans of your music, the future buyers of your merch, the future attendees of your concert. Where the hell are they? I mean, in the world and online. And how the hell do you get their email addresses? An email address is kind of stand-in for direct contact information. So, and this is all talking prior to launching your crowdfunding campaign. So it could be email addresses, could be phone numbers, whatever is going to get you in direct contact with them. If you go to the next slide, why do we care about something like email addresses? Well, mailing lists and text lists are way more likely to convert into the people who actually fund your project, buy your album, buy your merch, and show up to your shows. And they don't start on your email list, right? How do we pull them in from the ether, right? So if you look at this outermost concentric circle, that's all the people in the world you don't know, which is most of the people, right? And the red circle is all the people you can reach via social platforms, for example. That's many more people than you know, but many fewer than everybody in the world. And if you build a really kind of like engaging presence, you can encourage people to join your email list. Now, social media, again, is a little bit like shorthand for social sphere. So these could be people who join your email list because they saw you in concert, or, you know, you met them at an industry event, or, you know, you're out here in these streets having a good time and gathering some email addresses. But it requires diligence to do this. It means being thoughtful when you go to a new venue to bring your mailing list sign up sheet, right? You don't want to forget to do those things because you want to use every opportunity where you're out in the world in that red circle to draw people into your email list. On social, it means you have to give them a reason to want to, right? So you see a lot of people these days being like, sign up for my Substack. In this case, it could be go to my forever fan, right? I'm not making that up. Okay. So where the hell is your audience is going to be really important. How are you going to figure that out? Let's go to this next slide. I think it's much more common, I think, in film for people to assume certain demographics about their audience. Is this true in music? Do people be like, well, mine's mostly for like Gen Z fans of rock? Do people kind of pigeonhole themselves?
Yeah, people definitely do the same thing. And it just, to me, anybody who does that doesn't quite yet understand themselves and what they're presenting.
I,
Because
yeah,
the
that's a
better you
great point.
communicate what you have, the
Yeah.
better you understand who can connect with it. So they'll just
Yeah.
throw the generalizations. Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about this versus, hey, this is about breast cancer. Anyone who cares about breast cancer and is connected to that cause, etc. You're thinking a
Yeah.
lot more about true interest. That's
Yeah.
how people who understand talk. But it's very rare that a lot of people understand or think that deeply about their own story.
Yeah, so this is, I think, this to me is a really helpful way. So these women are all between the ages of 24 and 35. Let's say you're like, oh, my music is for, you know, roughly this age people. What I think is funny about that is if you look at this first woman here on the
Mhm.
left, what
Yeah,
social media platform is she on?
I don't know. Everybody's on all of them these days.
I don't think so. So I think it's, to me, this is a TikToker.
Hmm.
This one in the middle, Facebook. And then on the right, she's on LinkedIn,
That's
right?
fun.
Everybody has their preferred platform. Like, yes, we're all on all the platforms, but like we all have our preferred. So I'm saying this to say that even if you were right, even if it were all the women between the ages of 24 and 35, you wouldn't be able to reach them on the same platforms. They wouldn't necessarily be following the same things. It doesn't really help you as an independent artist who doesn't have $100 million marketing budget to reach all people on all platforms. You have to get more specific about who the people are who really respond to your work. So let's go to the next slide and
Yeah,
talk.
one thing I'll
Oh, go
add
ahead.
there, this is for an artist in particular, right? Because I have this conversation all the time. Like you can't just say, "Oh, this is hip hop," right? For instance, there's so many different types of hip hop, right? We already saw
Mm,
last year. There's like a Kendrick Lamar and a Drake, and their
mm,
fans feel pretty different at the core. Yes, there's the crossover because they're both pop, but then there's like a very alternative style, and then there's a more word and lyrical driven, then there's more of a feeling based beat driven, and there's trap, and there's so many different types of interest within that genre, let alone you add some ages and some other things to
yes.
that. Like, who's going to connect with you based on the substance that you provide, whether it's in a film or the music that you're presenting. And I think that's the part that you always have to lean into. It's the substance itself. Uh,
Yes.
and again, that goes to any genre. And artists tend to get mad when uh, people do this to them, but like clockwork, they do the exact same thing once they start building for themselves.
Yes, it happens in film also. Okay. So here's what I really suggest. If you want to find out more about the behaviors of the people who respond to what you make, find 5 of them and find 5 of them who are outside the music business. Okay. So don't just ask your friends who are in music. They're going to have totally skewed ideas about this and probably be more similar to you than somebody might be. So this might be somebody who like commented on a video that you posted of one of your songs. This could be some folks at a show that you did. I would really encourage you to get bold about asking these questions, and you're going to ask them, where do you hang out online, right? What are the social platforms? How do you get your news? How do you discover new music? Who are you following on social media, or Substack, or like what podcast do you listen to? I always like to find out little creative things, like what are you reading? Because the intersections of, like, for example, book talk and other TikToks can really help, engage folks across platforms. Where and how do you spend your free time? What kinds of other music do you listen to? What podcast do you listen to? What platforms are you listening on? How often do you see live shows? Where? How do you find out about them? Really dive into these questions. And what will happen after you ask 5 people is you will start to see some overlaps that are really going to help you. Like, oh, wow, interestingly enough, these 5 people are all at least on one social platform that I am also on. The other interesting thing is, like, they have similar like live show viewing behavior. But what can be really interesting is when you're like, wow, and they listen to wildly different other music, right? They listen to podcasts that I wouldn't expect. What it starts to do is help inform you of interesting ways and intersections where your work might go out in the world through channels you didn't expect. And so that's one of those things that, like, this seems embarrassing maybe, or it seems, I don't know, maybe it seems counterintuitive, but this is one of the most important things you can do for yourself as an artist, is really start to understand the behaviors of the people who really like your music, because that's going to allow you to find a lot more of them. So similarly, Sean, slide 15, we're just going to do a quick review here. We have to get social with our work. So you have to find an audience that is outside of your immediate circle. So we take the exclusive burden of supporting us off of our loved ones. We're going to join a couple of social platforms, if you're not already on them, that fit our lifestyle, that match where our audience is showing up, and that don't make us hate ourselves, right? So, like, part of my job is I work in tech. Twitter, I will never call it the other thing, is still a platform that a lot of people in tech are on. I had a huge following and like an original blue check mark there. And the day that the fascists took over, I left. I could not live with myself and still be on that platform. I've had to make other moral compromises for other social platforms. But that's one thing for me where I was like, that is not a place I am going to engage my audience. And that's what works for my life. So you can still obviously make like moral and ethical choices inside of this framework of like using the internet to engage audiences. And if you're like, screw them, like forget those fascists, I'm not getting on these platforms. There is a lot of social that is not on social media, right? There's mailing lists, there's newsletters, there's in-person events, there are community organizations and partnerships and festivals, and there's all sorts of other ways that you can engage audience. You can busk, for crying out loud, right? Like there's lots of ways to get out there if being on social media is just too much for you. Or you can create a balance between these things so you don't feel like, well, I wanted to be an artist, but now I'm a content creator, right? There are ways to strike balance and still build audiences. I'll just get through these next two slides. Yeah. It is really important to speak to your audience authentically, but that does not mean you have to give them insight into your every life, right? I like to say that like your tone online is at the intersection of who you are and who you want to reach. And there's a whole lot of that blue that you don't need to share if you don't want to. And there's a whole lot of that red that you don't need to know about. So you'll notice in the questionnaire, the audience questionnaire, I wasn't asking a lot of super personal questions because it's actually not necessarily relevant. I feel like being online is about telling the truth strategically, right? You can be authentic without having to feel like your life is on display. It's more about engagement than it is just about posting, right? So can you be responsive? Can you engage other creators? Can you make it feel like a two-way conversation? Always using your platform to uplift others is going to build more successfully than if it's just to like, look at me and what I'm doing. And then we'll worry about the pledge not donated another time. Yeah, so the next slide is really just a wrap up. If you want to find your actual audience in real life and online, you're gonna put your ego in your pocket and you're going to go out and talk to some people who've said they like your music, and you're going to find out more about them. And that will help teach you what to say about what you're working on, where and when to say it. And it will help you identify who can help amplify your message. And only after you have done these things does it make sense to start crowdfunding. Does that make sense? Is there anything you want to add before I get into the like meat and potatoes of crowdfunding?
Yeah, the beauty of talking to people is they will use words to describe you that you would never have used to describe you a lot of times. And then
Great.
you just use those words back to the rest of the audience and you amplify your fans' voice in your marketing really more than yours.
That's right. That's so smart. Um, because the name of the game in crowdfunding is building momentum. And frankly, this is true for releasing anything into the world. So crowdfunding is its own kind of like album launch in a certain way, right? If you're going to launch an album, you need a 30-day strategy of how you're going to keep this, at the top of people's minds and feeds. The same is true for a crowdfunding campaign. So we always recommend like 6 to 8 weeks of sort of strategically talking about and building up towards the campaign, so that the day that you click launch on your campaign, people are like, just give it to me already. They should be like desperately trying to give you money through other means by the time you launch. And I just want to say this, we're going to get to this in a second. It is also totally okay to start small, right? So this does not have to be a $100,000 campaign, $50,000 campaign, a $10,000 campaign. This could be a $5,000 campaign for some studio time, or maybe you've already recorded it in your bedroom and now you really want to do a really cool marketing push, or you have an idea for doing a few shows as a test case for building out a tour. All of these are perfectly cool things to do in crowdfunding, and it can help build this habit and capacity so that you don't put yourself in the position of doing something new, like running a crowdfunding campaign, and learning how to do it for the first time with really high stakes. So let's talk about some of the brass tacks. How much are you raising? You need to raise enough to deliver on whatever you're promising in your pitch. But you can scale your pitch to that container that feels comfortable for you. But what are your costs, right? Everything from production all the way through touring, delivering any incentives or merch that you're selling. I really think it's important in this like year, what are we in, 2025? Your life costs have to be a part of your campaign consideration. Like, what does it cost you to live? And can that be a part of what you are raising money for? You got to make a real budget. You have to account for any of the deliverables. So if you're selling merch through your campaign, how much is it going to cost you? And like, let's not be at a loss here. And you can always consider staged financing. So many people have run multiple campaigns for the same project. To get it through different stages. Like, I'm doing this one for production. I'm doing this one. Now I've made the album and now we want to go on tour. And that works really well because if you deliver on the promises in your first campaign, people are much more likely to come back and support the next one. Are there any
Uh,
other, yeah, tell me about budgeting. What else are we budgeting for that I didn't list here?
no, you hit the main things. I think obviously content can sometimes cost more if that's involved in some form of fashion, even if you aren't doing a show like a music video or something, even if you're doing touring, you want to make sure that you can cover content to significantly show them the journey of what they paid for. Making people helping people get updates on what they paid for is huge. So you see it a lot in the nonprofit space, right? If I paid to donate to some kids, if possible, maybe it's not intrusive and protective of the kids, but it might be a picture of them with at Disney World because you paid for a trip to Disney World or whatever you contributed to, just so people know that one, again, the money got spent well, and two, there's appreciation, and three, they can feel good about what they did and continue to support you in the future. And people can feel that difference when you didn't just take the money and execute. It's like you took the money, you executed, but also showed appreciation. That ongoing appreciation and just keeping them up to date means a lot. And I want to stress the life cost thing that Emily mentioned because especially if you don't come from a certain amount of money, which you probably, don't if you're don't going this route. And then also you add in, the artist mentality and things like that. There's a maturity that it takes to start to really understand the other perspective when you think about life costs. So we have this inclination to always think, well, I'm bootstrapping and I'm running lean, and you're almost bragging about I'm not even paying myself, right? But take this away from
Bragging
just
about that in 2025. We are not
right.
bragging about not paying ourselves in 2025.
And it's even if you talk to an investor for something like more like outside of this, right? Like a real investor, you're starting a company or running a company. The way investors will talk to you is like, hey, how much are you paying yourself? And you're like, you're not paying yourself. And then for them, that's a bad thing because let's say I'm giving you $100,000. I'm giving you $100,000. I want as much as your attention focused on making sure that goes to work as possible. But if you have this $100,000 and your life is strapping you down and you can't make sure that the marketing does what it's supposed to be, so you're overspending on marketing because the ads were turned on for an extra 4 days because you were so busy about all these other life things and snowball and snowball. So even having that life cost just helps make you a better steward of the money. And it's a real thing in the legitimate investor side. Like if you're in college and it's like, they might let that fly, right? All young, scrappy in college, but especially like as you get more of age, they will be very hard on you need to be paying yourself something. And you should think about this no different because people are investing in yourself. Obviously, they don't have as much say, but please use that perspective and understand it's going to make you better for the job. Obviously, we want to keep that number reasonable.
Yeah.
But that's really why it's so important outside of because the lack of stress helps better decision making and also just determines your attention and capacity to be a good steward with the money.
So important. Okay, let's go on to incentives. So every crowdfunding campaign is going to offer incentives. These are the things that get your audience really involved. Um, Maybe you haven't thought about making merch yet. Maybe a crowdfunding campaign is a really good time to start, but it is not the be all end all. Okay. So there are lots of incentives that you can offer that aren't merch related if that's not where you're going. What we really like to focus on is this range of like $25 to $75. It is where you can actually build momentum for the project with something you don't have to manufacture. And we like to say that your $25 incentive should be personal, visual, shareable, immediate, and digital. Because that way we can give, like, as soon as we get the contribution, we can turn around and give them this reward, and then we've already fulfilled the reward. But the reward can help the campaign's virality. So this was something that came from a campaign on Seed&Spark that I loved. Ever wanted Idris to rap directly at you in video form? Expect the unexpected from these bars featuring John on keys in the form of a shout out on social media. So this is a duo, keys and a rapper. And they were making these super short freestyle videos for anybody who contributed to the campaign. So for them, it was like a cool creative exercise, but it got them making a bunch of music. It got them putting it out on the internet. They were tagging the people who gave the contributions. Those people were then sharing it on their social, and it was demonstrating the momentum of the campaign. So we really love things like this that you don't have to manufacture. They help you flex as an artist. They get the audience engaged with you. But these can also be like in the form of a digital, like a little card or something if you have really cool arts or graphics. Humor is always useful in a crowdfunding campaign. The internet loves it. I'm sorry, can you go back really quickly? Almost done. You can create compounding incentives so that, you know, for $25, you get this reward. For $50, you get that reward plus this reward. For $100, you get that plus this plus this. And you just have to actually do the math on these to make sure that you're not, you know, overextending yourself beyond the campaign. And then you can create momentum with limited time incentives. And then you can get really creative, right? So are you selling tickets? Are you going to offer living room sessions? I've seen a lot of musicians do that. And the limited time incentives can actually really help sort of push your campaign along. Okay, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on merch in general?
Uh, my biggest thought on merch is don't oversell or in yourself in terms of the effort that you're gonna have to put in for merch. So I am huge on what I call one SKU items. So that means don't it's nice to have t-shirts, right? But t-shirts, oftentimes you're gonna have to make them in multiple colors. And if you're not doing multiple colors, you know for a fact you're gonna have to do them in multiple sizes, which all introduces complexity, potential inventory that you're sitting on, which starts to eat at costs, which is the whole reason you're doing this in the first place. But let's say if I had a dad cap, pretty much one size fits all. If I had some kind of cool ring or some cool pendant or uh, branded styrofoam cups, with which we've had an artist do, like little things that are one size fits all, really speak with more personality and stand out more than something like a t-shirt. It's not that you can't have those things with alongside that, but um, as much as possible, lean into those type of items that have minimal complexity, oftentimes a lot cheaper. Um, and even if you aren't selling them for as much as like a hoodie or a t-shirt, think about it like this, because this is crowdfunding. A lot of it's going to be a reward, but I do want to kind of like put this bug in you guys' mind even beyond. Um, so let's say styrofoam cup, right? This guy's selling it for $10, $15. We know styrofoam foam cups are very cheap. $10 to $15, that's not a crazy high number that you're selling it for. But because it's so cheap, you're making about $10 to $15 by selling it for $10 to $15, right? Now the question is, how much would a hoodie take for you to make $10 to $15 on it? Well, you might have to sell that for 45, 35. The numbers can slide, but how much easier is to sell something for $10 than to sell something for $35? So you might be
Pasta
thinking,
versus lobster.
what'd you say?
I worked in the restaurant business for so many years. It's the pasta lobster argument, right? Like you can sell lobster for a lot more, but your margins are a lot smaller.
Yes.
Versus pasta, which costs you nothing. And no, you can't sell it for $45, but the margins are good.
The margins are better and you're selling more of it because more people have $10 than have $35, right? So like really like lean into that thinking because it makes your life easier and everybody is happy. It's the ultimate win-win, but people just tend to go towards those typical things because that's just what they see, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's great. All right, let's talk pitch videos real quick. Okay, so we really cute example here. There's a crowdfunding campaign for Love Addict, a new album from Caitlin Cannon. She's a Nashville-based artist, and she did a really cute pitch video that was a combination of what looked like footage from a music video, which you see here, and talking directly to camera. And she's like lovely and bubbly and so sincere. And she really helped kind of bring us into the world of her music. She explained why it was so important for her to make this album as a live recorded session, why it was important for her to do it now, and why she needed the audience's help. For the rest of your life, as you're pitching, these are the 4 questions you need to answer in any pitch. Why me? Why this? Why now? Why do I need your help? Yes, you must be in the video. That is so that people can see who you are and who they're funding and like who is the team behind this. And it should showcase what you're offering. So if you're offering an album, can you share some demos? But I will say that it is perfectly possible to make a killer crowdfunding video just with a cell phone. I know because I've done it myself. I ran a campaign last year for a feature documentary that I made, and my husband and I ran around our house and shot this pitch video all over. And so with like a few clever conventions, like the most basic $7 microphone that plugs into your phone to give you a little bit better sound, and some good music in the background. In this case, it would be your music. You can make a really killer pitch video, and it does matter. If you're not a confident visual storyteller, this is where collaborating with filmmakers, finding folks in your community, getting on those message boards, getting into like whatever filmmaker subreddit might be in your community, can be really valuable. And those are relationships that are going to be meaningful to you throughout your career. We go to the
I,
next. Oh, good.
I will say that this is probably, without me knowing, you can tell me if this is correct,
Yeah.
but it seems like pitch videos are one of the most important parts about this process. From my standpoint, even as a consumer side, when I see people's pitch videos and I get asked to be a part of these things, the video itself is a signal for the product that you'll receive. Right? It's like they put this effort in and look at how quality is and how good it feels and how well it was put together. I feel confident giving this person my money. That's kind of what you're getting here versus it seems like they just threw this up and didn't do much, which I've made this mistake before in applications and things like that before because I didn't have time. But you think back, truly, the effort, people can see the lack of effort, and that doesn't make them feel confident that you're going to, again, be a good steward of the money they donate.
That's right. Is it a lot of work? Yes. I do not recommend you do this by yourself. I am personally running a crowdfunding campaign right now for my own film called Mr. Jesus. It's about a down on his luck actor who wakes up one morning to discover that his image has been stolen to make a Gen AI Jesus, and now everyone thinks he's the second coming. It is a short film, it's a satire, and there are 6 of us working on this project, and all 6 of us are working super hard together on this campaign. It's like a medium-sized campaign. It's a $35,000 campaign. For smaller campaigns, you can, I pulled off a $50,000 campaign last year with a team of 2, but I had a bunch of community organizations that were aligned with me. So a lot of this has to do with how much audience do you already have in your network, and that is that can really help determine kind of how many people you need on your team. But I would say that doing it alone is not possible or sustainable. And so you need at least one other person to do it with you and to really, really be engaged and invested. Leading up to launch day, this is what I talked about before. Part of your prep is going to be to create an actual schedule, like pre-production. I don't know, do they have pre-production in music? We do in film, where like you do a ton of planning leading up to the actual shooting of the film. You need to think about when you're going to share updates on your campaign, how you're going to generate social posts, who's sending up the thank yous and the follow-up emails. Are we scheduling any special events? And which people on the team are in charge of what? And then it's really important to also plan to learn from the crowd. So if you do something in your campaign that surprises you with how much the audience likes it or doesn't, I had a disastrous idea during my last campaign that I thought was going to go so well, and I made a couple of these videos and nobody liked them, and I was like, okay, well, I will not keep those on the schedule. I will swap them out. So you always want to plan to be auditing kind of how it's going and learning from your crowd. We can go to the next slide. The first, obviously, most important priority is your direct outreach. So this is what is going to yield the most results, which is why we're leaning a lot on building out your mailing lists and your capacity for direct outreach in advance of the campaign, so that you're not just leaning on your friends and family. I will tell you, though, that when I am crowdfunding, I go through this, my cell phone now has been collecting contact information, because it keeps rolling over in the cloud for 15 years, right? And so there's a lot of people in this phone that I would not say I'm like directly connected to necessarily. I have communicated with them before, but I go through my phone before a crowdfunding campaign and I send a text message to almost every person in it, not like the gardener, but like pretty much every person in my phone, to let them know that I'm about to launch a campaign and would they like to join the mailing list. And if they say yes, I put them on the mailing list. And now I have built out my mailing list out of somebody I'm connected to, but not necessarily like in regular touch with. And so organizing your direct outreach is going to be really important, because you're not going to send 10,000 emails on day one, right? And you want to start to prepare your messaging so that, especially if you're working with a team, everybody is speaking with one voice. Okay, we can move on. Once you have launched the campaign, you have to have a plan for posting updates to your campaign. Every crowdfunding platform, Seed&Spark is no different, has an update feature, sort of like a blog, where it gets sent automatically as an email to the people who have already funded and followed your campaign, and then it gets published like a blog to your campaign page. So it's a great place to demonstrate momentum, to give the people who've already funded and followed you visuals to share and shareable language. Every time you send an email to your audience, you are training them about whether or not it's going to be valuable to open your next email. So it is important to be like thoughtful and plan well for what you are sharing, so that you don't just dash something off and send it to them. Because as soon as you send me an email that I can, similar to the video, that I can tell you didn't put any thought into, I'm sort of like, well, why would you ask for my time for this, right? So you want to be careful of your audience's time and energy. And there's lots of tools out there that can make these look really good. On Seed&Spark, you can embed, Spotify and SoundCloud, as well as YouTube videos into these sorts of things. Oh, this is just detail on what I said, so you will have this in the deck. Social media is another really important piece of your outreach. You want to have a plan on how you're going to thank everyone publicly. If you do the kind of incentive that we talked about earlier, that's personal, visual, and shareable, you want to be posting these regularly Our convention is that if you give $25 to our campaign, Mr. Jesus, the AI Jesus, will forgive whatever sin you tell him. And so we have people sending us their confessions, and some of them are very sweet, and some of them are maybe unforgivable, to be perfectly honest. But it's really fun, and we're posting them to our socials, and people are enjoying those. And then you want to make sure that your social media is not just like navel gazing, right? Altruism over ego or over narcissism. So make sure you are continuing to promote your friends' work. After you launch, there are all sorts of things that you can do to help boost your campaign. Live events, certainly if you're a musician doing a show that is a fundraiser show, is a really good idea. Do it in someone's backyard. Like, it does not have to be complex. If there's somebody in your network who you think might be willing to give $250, $500, $1,000, see if they can hold on to that contribution until the end of the second week of your campaign. And you can say, look, every dollar for the first 1,000 is matched. That can really help boost momentum for your campaign. Be as creative as you want here for bonus elements. It can really pay off. We can go to the next slide. Once you have launched your campaign, it is so important to use the communication schedule that you have created. The only time we see campaigns die is when filmmakers or musicians or anybody who's using the platform, they launch their campaign and then they expect a miracle to happen, which is that people will somehow magically find it and magically it will stay on top of them. So like when we have creators come to us and they're like, oh, my campaign's not going anywhere, we can look and we will see they have posted no updates. They have almost not posted anything on social, and we can guarantee they have not sent a lot of emails, right? It takes a phenomenal amount of dedicated outreach to do a campaign. And I'm saying this to you as somebody whose campaign just hit 50%, and we're just a little bit more than 50% of the way through the campaign. This is not uncommon. Like, the biggest weeks are week 1 and week 4 of any campaign, but it, like, every day I'm thinking of new people to reach out to. Every day we're coming up with new videos that we're posting. Every day we are coming up with outreach. And the reason that I think this is important is because, like, this is actually the kind of hustle you absolutely must have to be successful as a commercial artist. Meaning, if you want to make money at your art, you have to be willing to put this kind of like sweat equity in. The nice thing about crowdfunding is that the money comes to you immediately for that sweat. It's not just sweat equity. So yeah, so really you got to hustle on the communications. And then I really want, as soon as people start funding your campaign, for you to reach out to those funders and start asking them those original questions that we talked about. How did you find out about this campaign? What other music do you listen to? Like, now that you are meeting your actual audience, go find out how they behave, because that's going to help you find more of them. And then we're almost done. When your campaign is finished, deliver on the promises that you made. Don't ghost your supporters, make the thing, deliver your incentives, and stay in regular communication. And when you are done, you can continue to grow your audience this way. Make events happen. Don't wait for somebody to say yes to you to throw a concert. Do it in your backyard, your friend's backyard, your parents' backyard. You don't have to wait for a yes from someone else. Everywhere you are allowed to play, pass around a mailing list or have a QR code or something to make it easy for people to follow you. Although I do not like the QR code to TikTok personally, because that is a disintermediated audience. So like, you can, Sean, we might not agree on this entirely, but like, I want you to get, sure, you can have them follow you on TikTok, but that is not a direct connection to your audience. TikTok owns that audience. The algorithm will decide if they see you or not. And if TikTok decides to demonetize you or never to monetize you at all, or it gets sold off to the US government, I don't know what's about to happen to TikTok. But that is not a direct connection to your audience. So be dedicated to making sure you get the direct contact information of people when you come into contact with them. And then think about who the artists are in your community. They don't just have to be musicians. Who you all can join forces and help each other build audiences. Maybe it's cool to partner with a filmmaker and a visual artist and I'm forgetting what other kinds of art there are. I don't know. A skateboarder. I don't know. You could put on super rad events if you partner with lots of different artists and performers in your community, and you can help all build audiences for one another, because it doesn't have to reach a scale of millions when you have a direct connection to your audience. It could be 1 or 2 thousand over the course of a couple years, and that could make a sustainable living for an artist if you're really dedicated to this. Okay, we did it. So if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A box. We will, if you've registered for this, we will send you this deck. And also we can, we will post this online as a recording later. Sean, what did I miss? You can stop sharing your screen.
No, I think you covered it. Super, super thorough. I love your decks because I remember seeing the distribution about music. I mean, about film, and I love that one just as much because I didn't know as much. I think that this is an incredible source because it sounds like you're going to give this to them. They could follow, use it as almost like a checklist going forward. So that's super helpful. And I think the biggest thing is to truly take these things into heart. All of these things matter. It is a lot of work, but on the other side of that rainbow is a legitimate audience and a legitimate benefit. And people have done it over and over again, and you're getting money. And I have seen time and time again people who do not have huge social followings uh, raise $30,000 plus. It really isn't about that. And if you tell the story right, this exercise alone will benefit you in the rest of your career because it's really rinse and repeat. Tell story, get people to connect. Sometimes you're crowdfunding, sometimes you're like, hey, just buy my show tickets. Sometimes you're selling merch, sometimes it's a music video. But if you can nail this, then I mean, you're gonna win.
Sky's the limit. Oh my gosh. Well, Sean, thank you so much. I took a bunch of notes while you were talking because I have ideas based on what you said about ways we can make this deck even more valuable. And I realized I have a few questions I'm going to ask you behind the scenes too, just about uh, making content. The one thing I really wanted to ask you is because I learned about Forever Fan from you. And then I
Mhm.
found out it was co-founded by a friend of my little brother's. It was an amazing coincidence. Can you just talk a little bit about the role that Forever Fan can play in this like ongoing audience engagement strategy?
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid for this. I actually really think it's an incredible tool. So I just want our audience to know a little bit more about like where in your sort of career cycle do you put up your page, and what are some of the things that it can do to really help you engage your audience?
Right. So, um, on the surface level, you want to think you have all these link in bios, link trees, and things like this. This allows you to have a way sexier front lawn, like really feel like your brand and communicate who you are. And there's all other things that you can do with it. But beyond that is way more powerful. That's just a simple front end tool. There's a lot of ways to collect the information, phone, email, addresses, locations. You can do it automatically without having to ask. And then there's always also ways where you can do it in hard asks to get their very specific home address. The most important thing is, at the very least, phone and email, you want to get that no matter what, even if you weren't using Forever Fan. Of course, I would love you to use Forever Fan, but you need that information. Where Forever Fan comes in and really excels at in that is you don't have to be an expert to use it, right? It makes the process extremely simple and helps you automate and continue to nurture that audience to help keep them up to date with your journey, to help deepen the relationship. So whenever you're trying to mobilize or monetize them, you get way more people to support.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people collect an email or phone number and then you don't hear from them like that friend who only shows up who when they need something. And that's what you don't want to do. So it really helps you nurture and deepen that relationship. And it gets deeper than that in terms of understanding who's your most valuable and who's your most engaged and all these other little things. But at the surface level, you just want to think about that part alone. Like, how do I actually utilize the data versus just having it and sitting on it for, and it's collecting dust until, oh, I do have an email list and I do want to do something. Let me just send an email and see what happens. And now you don't get any conversion and you're like, oh, this doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. It does work. You didn't work in the meantime. Now I know you have limited capacity probably. That's why the platform works for you once you set up the automations.
That's awesome. I didn't know about the automation side of it. What is it going to take for me to convince you guys to build out the features so it also works for filmmakers? What are we doing here?
It's coming very soon, Emily. Very, very, very soon. I will email you, but
This
that
is
prize around the corner.
coming early. I love this so much. Yeah, I just want to say generally before we go, this last point about collaboration, right? So Sean and I are recent friends, immediately saw that we're very values aligned and realized that what he was doing in music and what I've been doing in film belong in the same conversation, right? And I know that we can drive a ton of folks to the work that he does. And also I really believe in Forever Fan. And I know that that's the sort of collaboration that's going to be great for our artists. It's going to be great for them. It's going to be great for us. And that's just like one tiny example of you can join forces with somebody who's like adjacent to you, but not doing exactly what you're doing. So it doesn't have to be other musicians. They can be theater artists. They can be filmmakers. They can be writers. And you can find really cool ways to partner and uplift one another, because I truly believe that if we are going to gain the benefit of this direct to fan movement that is happening right now and take the power back from the sort of like corporate tech overlords, we will only do that in community collaboration and mutual aid. And that will be a rising tide that floats all artists' boats, as it were. Um,
I
so
want to add something to that really quickly.
please.
First, for those who are wondering, the site is foreverfanmusic.com. It's just as it sounds, foreverfanmusic.com. But the point that Emily touched on is so valuable and really very much so why I'm here. Um, when you when you collaborate, and you don't know this about me yet, when you collaborate with other people, other artists that aren't the type of artist that you are, it's way more interesting than
Yeah.
collaborating with an artist who's kind of competing but not really, and it's a different dynamic. And also, even if y'all are like super friendly, y'all love each other, it doesn't add dimension to your show, right? And I
Mhm.
mentioned shortly that, I started this festival, it was amazing. Oh, everybody loved it and kind of like spring board this entire career that I didn't know I was going to have in music. But it was music artists were on the stage, but I had visual artists on the walls. I had different types of art vendors who created all these different things. I mean, I had a guy who really approached juice like it was an art and had this whole, vibe to him, like set designers controlling a room. So it adds so much dimension when you build these other relationships, which creates a better experience and for your fans and helps you better, like especially when you need stuff, better get out your vision, right?
Yeah.
Because other artists are going to have the same limitations as you, but a set designer might say, oh yeah, I know this place that I can get all these things and make your music video look better, right? So you really do want to build those relationships with other types of creatives for many reasons.
Awesome. I love that so much. A juice artist. I had not considered that. I love this so much. All right, y'all. It's 8:10. It's a Thursday. It's past my bedtime. Um, I hope this has been valuable. Sean, thank you so much. I have all sorts of like new details I'm going to put into the deck after this. We will send out this deck to everybody who registered for the event. We will put this up on our YouTube channel, our Seed&Spark YouTube channel, and we can't wait to see y'all soon. If you would like to participate in the crowdfunding rally, you have until August 28th to submit your campaign. It doesn't mean you have to launch your campaign by then. You just submit your campaign for feedback. So you can start that process. And then I think you have 3 more weeks before you need to launch your campaign to qualify for the rally. So it's plenty of time to do the stuff that we talked about. My team is on standby to give you personalized feedback on anything that you submit. And happy crowdfunding, y'all.